The rain stung my face like 1,000 tiny needles. But I didn't care. I stood in the alley, my pack's rejection still burning in my chest. Their words, "You're nothing. Eli. A weak beta who'll never belong," echoing louder than the storm. I was 22, broken, and alone, until he appeared. The one person I never expected to see again. My name is Eli Carter, and I was born into a world that worshipped strength and scorned weakness. In the sprawling city of New Haven, Connecticut, where skyscrapers loomed over forgotten alleys, our society clung to an ancient hierarchy. Alphas ruled, omegas were cherished, and betas like me, we were the invisible middle, expected to serve and never question. I'd been part of the Crescent Pack, a tight-knit group that felt like family until they turned on me. They called me a traitor, a liability, all because I dared to love someone I shouldn't have. His name was Caleb, an alpha, and my best friend since we were kids stealing comics from the corner store. But loving him was my crime, and the pack made sure I paid for it. That night, as I stood shivering in the alley, my clothes soaked and my heart shattered, I thought I'd lost everything. The pack had cast me out, stripped me of my rank, and left me with nothing but bruises and shame. I'd been so naive, thinking my loyalty to them would outweigh their prejudice. I was wrong. The world didn't care about a disgraced beta, and neither did I until Caleb found me. Eli. His voice cut through the rain like a lifeline. I turned, and there he was, his broad shoulders filling the alley's narrow mouth, his hazel eyes blazing with something I couldn't name. At 24, Caleb was everything I wasn't: strong, confident, an alpha destined for greatness. Yet here he was, soaked to the bone, searching for me. "Caleb, what are you doing here?" My voice cracked, raw from crying. "They'll kill you for this. You're one of them." "I'm not one of them," he said, stepping closer, his boots splashing in the puddles. "I never was if it meant losing you." His words hit me harder than the pack's fists ever could. I wanted to believe him, but trust was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. The Crescent Pack had been my home for years, a place where I'd fought to prove my worth despite being a beta. I wasn't strong like the alphas or revered like the omegas, but I was clever, resourceful, and loyal. I'd handled their logistics, planned their runs, and kept their secrets. And for what? To be betrayed over a love I never acted on. A love I buried deep because I knew it was forbidden. It started 6 months ago, when whispers spread that I'd grown too close to Caleb. We'd been inseparable since we were 10, sharing dreams of escaping New Haven's rigid rules. But as we grew older, the pack noticed the way I looked at him too long, too soft. They saw my heart in my eyes, and they hated me for it. Homosexuality wasn't the issue. It was the audacity of a beta daring to love an alpha. In their eyes, I was reaching above my station, threatening the order they clung to like gospel. The accusations came fast. Eli's trying to manipulate Caleb. They said, "He's distracting our future leader." Lies. All of them. But lies spread faster than truth in a pack built on fear. Caleb defended me at first, his voice booming in the pack's meeting hall. But even he couldn't stop the tide. The elders decided I was a threat. And last night, they dragged me before the pack, stripped me of my rank, and beat me until I could barely stand. Then they threw me out, warning me never to return. Now, here was Caleb, risking everything to stand by me. "You don't get it, do you?" he said, his voice low but fierce. "I'm not leaving you out here to die." Die? I laughed bitterly, wiping rain from my eyes. "I'm already dead to them. And if you stay with me, you'll be next." He grabbed my shoulders, his grip firm but gentle. "Let them try. I choose you, Eli. I always have. My breath caught. For years, I'd hidden my feelings, convinced they'd destroy us both. But now, with the rain washing away the blood and the pain, I saw something in Caleb's eyes I'd never dared to hope for. Was it possible he felt the same? Or was this just pity? The loyalty of a friend who couldn't let go? Before I could ask, headlights pierced the darkness. A black SUV screeched to a stop at the alley's entrance, and my heart sank. The pack had found us. Caleb pushed me behind him, his body tense, ready to fight. Stay back, he growled, but I knew we were out of time. The doors opened, and 3 alphas stepped out, their silhouettes menacing against the rain. Leading them was Marcus, the pack's enforcer, a man who'd always hated me. You really thought you could run, Eli? He sneered. And you, Caleb, throwing away your future for this beta? Caleb didn't flinch. He's worth more than your whole damn pack. Marcus laughed, cold and cruel. We'll see about that. They lunged, and the alley erupted into chaos. Caleb fought like a man possessed, his fists a blur, but there were too many. I tried to help, swinging a piece of broken pipe I found on the ground, but a sharp pain exploded in my side as Marcus's fist connected. I stumbled, gasping, and saw Caleb take a hit that sent him crashing into the wall. Stop! I screamed, my voice hoarse. Take me. Just leave him alone. Marcus grabbed me by the throat, his eyes gleaming with malice. Oh, we'll take you, Beta. But first, we're going to make sure you both learn your place. As his grip tightened, I looked at Caleb, slumped against the wall, blood trickling from his lip. His eyes met mine, and in that moment, I knew he'd never give up on me. And I swore, no matter what happened next, I'd fight for him too. The rain didn't let up, and neither did the pain. Marcus's fingers dug into my throat, cutting off my air, while the other 2 alphas pinned Caleb to the ground. His hazel eyes burned with defiance, even as blood mixed with rainwater on his face. I wanted to scream, to fight, but my body betrayed me, weak from the beating I'd taken hours earlier. All I could do was choke out, Caleb, don't. Shut up, Beta. Marcus snarled, slamming me against the brick wall. My head spun, stars bursting behind my eyes. You've caused enough trouble. Caleb roared, thrashing against the alphas holding him. Let him go, Marcus. This is between you and me. Marcus laughed, a sound like gravel crunching underfoot. You think you're still one of us. You're nothing now, Caleb. Just like him. The words cut deeper than any fist. Caleb was an alpha, born to lead, destined to carry the Crescent Pack into the future. But here he was, bleeding in an alley for Maya Disgraced Beta, the pack's scapegoat. Guilt clawed at my chest. I'd never wanted this for him. I'd loved him in silence, thinking it would protect us both. How had it come to this? It wasn't always like this. Growing up, Caleb and I were 2 sides of the same coin. We'd race bikes through New Haven's backstreets, sneak into old theaters, and dream of a world where we could be free. He was the reckless one, always pushing boundaries, while I was the planner, the one who kept us out of trouble. But as we hit our teens, the pack's rules tightened around us. Caleb was groomed for leadership, while I was taught to stay in my lane. Betas don't dream, Eli, my father used to say. They serve. I hated it, but I obeyed until Caleb made me believe I could be more. Now, as Marcus dragged me toward the SUV, I saw that dream crumbling. You're coming with us, he said. The elders want you gone for good. No. Caleb broke free for a moment, landing a punch that sent one of the alphas staggering. But the other tackled him, slamming his head into the pavement. I screamed his name, my voice raw, but Marcus's hand clamped over my mouth. Quiet, or I'll make this worse for him, he hissed. I froze, my heart pounding. I couldn't let Caleb die for me. But as I looked at him, fighting despite the odds, I realized he wasn't just fighting for me, he was fighting for us. For the bond we'd built over years. The one the pack couldn't break no matter how hard they tried. The alley blurred as tears mixed with rain. I had to do something. My eyes darted to the pipe I'd dropped earlier, half hidden in a puddle. If I could just reach it. Marcus, you coward. Caleb's voice rang out, distracting him. You're too weak to face me alone. Marcus turned, loosening his grip just enough. I lunged, grabbing the pipe and swinging it with all my strength. It connected with Marcus's knee, and he howled, stumbling back. I didn't wait to see if he fell. I ran to Caleb, pulling him to his feet as the other alphas hesitated, caught off guard. Run, I shouted, dragging him toward the alley's far end. We stumbled through the rain, my side screaming with pain, Caleb's arm heavy around my shoulders. Behind us, Marcus's curses echoed, but the storm swallowed the sound of their pursuit. We ducked into a narrow side street, pressing ourselves against a dumpster to catch our breath. Caleb's face was pale, blood streaking his cheek, but his eyes were fierce. You okay? He asked, his voice rough. Me? You're the one bleeding, I said, touching his face before I could stop myself. His skin was warm under my fingers, and for a moment, the world stopped, just him and me, hidden in the dark. I'd bleed worse for you, he said softly, and my heart stuttered. There it was again, that look in his eyes, the one I'd spent years pretending not to see. But now wasn't the time to unravel it. We need to move, I said, forcing my voice steady. They'll find us. Caleb nodded, but his hand lingered on mine. I know a place. A safe house my cousin used to crash at. It's not far. I didn't ask questions. We moved through the city, sticking to shadows. The rain our only ally. New Haven's neon lights flickered in the distance, a reminder of the world that had rejected me. But with Caleb by my side, I felt a spark of hope, fragile but real. The safe house was a rundown apartment above a shuttered deli, its windows boarded but the door unlocked. Inside, it smelled of dust and old coffee, but it was dry and quiet. Caleb locked the door behind us, and for the first time in hours, I could breathe. We're safe for now, he said, collapsing onto a worn couch. I sat beside him, my body aching but my mind racing. The pack wouldn't stop. They'd hunt us until they were sure I was gone or worse. Until they broke Caleb too. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You could have stayed. You could have been their leader. Caleb looked at me, his eyes searching mine. Because you're my home, Eli. Not the pack. Not the rules. You. I couldn't speak. The weight of his words settled over me, heavy and warm, like a blanket I didn't deserve. But before I could respond, a sharp knock echoed from the door, and my blood ran cold. The knock came again, sharp and insistent, like a hammer on my nerves. Caleb and I froze, our eyes locked in the dim light of the safe house. My heart pounded so loud I swore it would give us away. Stay here, Caleb whispered, rising from the couch, his body coiled like a spring. No way, I hissed, grabbing his arm. We face this together. He hesitated, then nodded, his jaw tight. We crept to the door, Caleb peering through a crack in the boarded window. It's Lila, he he said, relief flooding his voice. Lila was Caleb's cousin, a 26-year-old Omega with a sharp tongue and sharper instincts. She'd always been kind to me, even when the pack wasn't. Caleb opened the door, and she slipped inside, her dark curls dripping with rain. She carried a duffel bag, and her eyes were wide with urgency. "You two are in deep shit," she said, dropping the bag on the floor. "The pack's tearing the city apart looking for you." "How'd you find us?" I asked, my voice wary. Trust was a fragile thing now, even with Lila. "Caleb told me about this place years ago," she said, glancing at him. "I figured he'd bring you here. You're lucky I got here first." She unzipped the bag, revealing clothes, food, and a first aid kit. "Clean yourselves up. You look like hell." Her gaze softened as she looked at me. "Eli, I'm sorry. I tried to stop them. But the elders, they're out for blood." I swallowed hard. The memory of the pack's betrayal still raw. "Why are you helping us?" "Because you don't deserve this," she said fiercely. "And neither does Caleb. The pack's wrong about you, Eli. They're wrong about a lot of things." Caleb started bandaging his cuts, but his eyes never left Lila. "What's the plan?" he asked. "They'll find this place eventually." Lila hesitated, then pulled out a burner phone. "I've got a contact, an old friend who runs with a rogue group outside the city. They're not like the Crescent Pack. They don't care about rank or who you love. They can get you out of New Haven." "Out?" I echoed, my stomach twisting. Leaving meant abandoning everything me city. My past, the faint hope of redemption. But staying meant death. Or worse. For both of us. Caleb's hand found mine under the table, his touch grounding me. "We'll figure it out," he said, his voice steady. "Together." Lila nodded, but her expression was grim. "You've got maybe a day before Marcus tracks you here. I'll set up a meet with my contact, but you need to move fast." As she stepped outside to make the call, I turned to Caleb, my mind a storm of fear and questions. What if this is a mistake? What if we're running into something worse? He cupped my face, his thumbs brushing away the last of the rain on my cheeks. "The only mistake I ever made was letting you face this alone for so long. I'm not doing that again." His words broke something in me, a dam I'd built to keep my feelings locked away. I wanted to tell him everything, how I'd loved him since we were kids, how his smile was the only thing that kept me going some days. But the words stuck in my throat, choked by fear and years of hiding. Instead, I leaned into his touch, letting myself believe, just for a moment, that we could outrun the pack, the rules, the world. But the moment shattered when Lila burst back inside, her face pale. "They're closer than I thought," she said, her voice shaking. "Marcus has trackers on your scent. They're combing the west side." Caleb cursed, grabbing the duffel bag. "We need to go? Now." We fled into the night, the city a maze of shadows and danger. Lila led us through back alleys, her knowledge of New Haven's underbelly our only advantage. My side ached, my lungs burned, but Caleb's hand in mine kept me moving. We reached an abandoned warehouse by the river, its rusted walls offering temporary shelter. Inside, we caught our breath, the air thick with dust and the faint smell of oil. Lila checked her phone, her fingers flying over the screen. "My contact's meeting us at dawn. If we can hold out till then, you're free." "Free," I whispered, the word foreign on my tongue. I'd never known freedom. Not really. The pack had defined my life, my worth, my place. And yet, here was Caleb, risking everything to give me a chance at it. He sat beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. "That I don't deserve you," I admitted, my voice breaking. "You're throwing away your life for me." He turned to me, his eyes fierce. "You are my life, Eli. Don't you get that?" Before I could respond, a low growl echoed from the warehouse's entrance. My blood ran cold. Lila spun around, her eyes wide. "They're here." The growl wasn't human, it was primal. A warning from the pack's trackers. They'd found us, faster than we'd hoped. The warehouse's shadows seemed to tighten around us. The rusted beams and broken crates no match for the alphas hunting us. Caleb pulled me to my feet, his hand a lifeline in the dark. "Stay close," he whispered, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Lila grabbed a crowbar from the floor, her face set with determination. "There's a back exit," she said. "If we can get to the river, we might lose them." We moved fast, weaving through the warehouse's maze of debris. My heart pounded, every creak and groan of the old building sounding like footsteps. Caleb led the way, his alpha instincts sharp, while Lila guarded our rear. I felt useless, my beta strength no match for what was coming. But I clutched a broken piece of wood, ready to fight if it came to that. The back exit was a rusted door, half hidden behind a stack of crates. Caleb shoved them aside, the wood splintering under his strength. But before we could reach it, the main entrance crashed open, and Marcus's voice boomed through the warehouse. "You can't run forever, Eli." I froze, my breath catching. Caleb pushed me behind him, his body a shield. "Keep going," he hissed. "I'll hold them off." "No," I said, grabbing his arm. "We do this together, remember?" He looked at me, his eyes softening for a split second before hardening again. "Fine, but stay behind me." Lila kicked the door open, and we stumbled into the night. The river was close, its dark waters glinting under the moonlight. But the pack was closer. I heard their boots pounding, their growls echoing through the air. We sprinted toward the riverbank, the ground slick with mud. Lila pointed to a small dock where a rowboat bobbed in the current. "There. Get to it." We were halfway there when a figure lunged from the shadows. It was one of Marcus's trackers, a wiry alpha named Jace. He tackled Lila, sending her sprawling into the mud. I screamed her name, but Caleb was already moving, slamming into Jace with a force that shook the ground. They grappled, fists flying, while I helped Lila to her feet. "Go," she gasped, shoving me toward the boat. "I'll hold them." I hesitated, torn. Lila was tough, but she was an Omega, no match for a pack of alphas. But before I could argue, another figure appeared, Marcus, his eyes gleaming with hate. He didn't bother with words this time. He charged straight for me. Caleb roared, abandoning Jace to intercept Marcus. The two alphas collided like thunder, their fists a blur of rage. I stood frozen, clutching the piece of wood, my mind screaming at me to move, to help. Lila grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the boat. "Eli, now." But I couldn't leave Caleb. I broke free, running toward the fight. Marcus had Caleb pinned, his fist raised for a crushing blow. Without thinking, I swung the wood, catching Marcus in the side of the head. He staggered, blood streaming from his temple, but he didn't go down. "You little," he snarled, turning on me. Before he could finish, Caleb tackled him again, driving him into the mud. "Eli, get to the boat," he shouted. This time, I listened. Lila and I reached the dock, scrambling into the rowboat. Caleb followed, shoving off just as Jace and another alpha reached the water's edge. They shouted, their voices swallowed by the river's roar as we paddled into the current. The boat rocked, cold water splashing over the sides. My hands shook on the oars, but Caleb's steady presence kept me grounded. Lila scanned the shore, her crowbar still in hand. They'll follow, she said grimly. But the current's strong. It'll buy us time. We drifted in silence, the city's lights fading behind us. My body ached, my mind reeling from the night's chaos. But Caleb's hand found mine, his fingers intertwining with my own. We're okay, he said softly. For now? I nodded, but the weight of his words from earlier pressed against my chest. You are my life, Eli. I wanted to believe it, to let myself fall into the hope he offered. But the pack wasn't done with us, and I knew Marcus's hatred ran deeper than the river we were riding. By dawn, we reached a small, wooded inlet where Lila's contact was waiting a woman named Mara, lean and tough, with a scar across her cheek. She led us to a van hidden in the trees. Her rogue group's emblem painted on the side, a crescent moon, broken in half. You're safe with us, she said, her voice gruff but kind. But you've got a long road ahead. As we climbed into the van, I looked at Caleb, his face bruised but unbroken. He smiled, a small, defiant curve of his lips, and I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I dared to imagine a future where we could be more than friends, more than outcasts. But as the van rumbled to life, I couldn't shake the feeling that the pack was still out there, waiting to tear it all apart. The van rattled along a dirt road, the forest closing in around us like a protective shroud. Mara drove with a steady hand, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds, as if expecting the pack to burst from the trees. Caleb sat beside me in the back, his shoulder pressed against mine, a silent reminder that we were still here, still fighting. Lila was up front, murmuring directions to Mara, her voice low but urgent. I stared out the window, the blur of green and gray doing little to calm the storm in my chest. I was still processing what had happened, Marcus's rage, Caleb's sacrifice, the river that had carried us away from certain death. My side throbbed where Marcus had hit me, and my hands were raw from gripping the oars. But worse than the physical pain was the guilt. Caleb had given up everything, his rank, his future, his pack for me. A beta who'd never been worth much to anyone. Why? You're quiet, Caleb said, his voice soft enough that only I could hear. He nudged my knee with his, a small gesture that felt like an anchor. Just thinking, I said, avoiding his gaze, about how I've ruined your life. He let out a sharp laugh, startling me. Ruined? Eli, you're the only thing that's ever made sense in it. I turned to him, my throat tight. His hazel eyes held mine, steady and unguarded. And for a moment, I saw the boy I'd fallen in love with, the one who'd shared his last candy bar with me when we were 12, who'd promised we'd see the world together. But we weren't kids anymore, and the world we dreamed of was a battlefield. Before I could respond, Mara spoke up. We're almost at the camp. You two need to decide what you're doing next. The rogues can hide you, but the Crescent Pack won't stop hunting. Lila turned in her seat, her expression grim. She's right. Marcus is obsessed. He won't let this go until he's sure you're both dealt with. Caleb's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away from me. Then we keep running. Together. The camp was a cluster of cabins tucked deep in the Connecticut woods, far from New Haven's concrete jungle. The rogues were a mix of outcast betas, omegas, even a few alphas who'd rejected the pack system. They welcomed us with wary nods, their eyes scanning us for signs of trouble. Mara introduced us to their leader, a grizzled beta named Sam, who looked me over with a mix of pity and respect. "You've got guts, kid," Sam said, handing me a cup of coffee. Not many betas would take on Marcus and live to tell about it. I didn't do much. I muttered, my cheeks burning. Caleb's the one who'd be dead without you." Sam cut in. "You swung that pipe. You got them to the boat. Don't sell yourself short." His words hit me harder than I expected. All my life, I'd been told I was less strong, less important, less worthy. But here, among people who'd rejected the same system that had crushed me, I felt a flicker of something new. Pride, maybe, or hope. That night, we sat around a fire with the rogues, their stories weaving a tapestry of rebellion and survival. They'd built a community here, one that didn't care about rank or rules. I watched Caleb as he listened, his face lit by the flames, and wondered if we could find a place here. A place where I could love him without fear. But the peace didn't last. At dawn, a scout burst into the cabin where we were sleeping, her face pale. "Crescent packs close. They've got trackers sniffing out the woods." Caleb was on his feet in an instant, pulling me up with him. "How many?" he asked. "Too many," the scout said. "We can hold them off, but you two need to move." Mara handed us a map and a set of keys. "There's a safe house in Vermont, about 4 hours north. Get there. Lay low. We'll handle things here." I wanted to protest, to stay and fight, but Caleb's grip on my hand told me there was no arguing. We said quick goodbyes to Lila, who hugged us both fiercely. "Don't do anything stupid," she said, her eyes wet. "And don't you dare give up." The drive was tense, the van's engine the only sound as we wound through back roads. Caleb drove, his knuckles white on the wheel, while I watched the rearview mirror for any sign of pursuit. The silence between us was heavy, filled with unspoken questions. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Caleb," I said, my voice shaking, "what happens when we stop running? What are we even fighting for?" He glanced at me, his expression softening. "We're fighting for us, Eli. For a life where we don't have to hide who we are, who we love." The word love hung between us, raw and real. I opened my mouth to respond, but a flash of headlights in the mirror cut me off. My heart sank. "They're here." Caleb cursed, flooring the gas. The van lurched forward, the road blurring beneath us. But the headlights grew closer, and I knew we couldn't outrun them forever. The van's engine roared as Caleb pushed it to its limits, the narrow Vermont road twisting through dense forest. The headlights behind us were relentless, closing the gap with every mile. My hands gripped the seat, my pulse hammering in my ears. "They're gaining," I said, my voice tight with panic. "I know," Caleb growled, his eyes flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. "Hold on." He swerved onto a dirt path, the van bouncing over roots and rocks. Branches scraped the sides, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. For a moment, I thought we'd lost them. The headlights vanished, swallowed by the trees. But then they reappeared, closer than ever, and I saw the outline of Marcus's SUV. "They're not giving up," I said, my stomach churning. "Caleb, what do we do?" "We fight," he said, his voice hard. "But not here. Not like this." He slammed on the brakes, the van skidding to a stop in a small clearing. Before I could ask what he was doing, he grabbed my hand. "Run. Into the woods. Now." We bolted from the van, the cold air biting at my skin. The forest was thick, the ground uneven, But Caleb's grip kept me steady. Behind us, the SUV's doors slammed, and Marcus's voice carried through the trees. "You can't hide. Eli. This ends tonight." We ducked behind a massive oak, our breaths ragged. Caleb pressed a finger to his lips, his eyes scanning the darkness. I could hear the pack moving, their footsteps crunching through the underbrush. My heart pounded so loud I was sure they'd hear it. Caleb leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "There's a river up ahead. If we can get across, we might lose them." I nodded, too scared to speak. We crept through the woods, moving as quietly as we could. The river was close. I could hear its rush, but so was Marcus. His growl echoed, closer now, and I knew we were running out of time. We broke into a sprint, the river's edge coming into view. It was wide, its current swift and dark. Caleb didn't hesitate, pulling me into the water. The cold hit me like a shock, stealing my breath. But I followed him, wading deeper until the current tugged at my waist. "Keep going," Caleb urged, his voice strained. I glanced back and saw flashlights cutting through the trees. The pack was almost on us. We reached the far bank, scrambling up the muddy slope. My clothes clung to me, heavy with water, but Caleb's hand never left mine. We ran until my legs burned, until the sounds of pursuit faded. Finally, we collapsed in a small cave, its mouth hidden by vines. Caleb pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me as we shivered. "We're okay," he whispered. "We made it." "For now," I said, my voice trembling. "But they'll keep coming." He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Let them. I'm not losing you, Eli. Not ever." His words broke through the fear, the cold, the pain. I leaned into him, my forehead resting against his. And for the first time, I let myself feel the truth I'd buried for years. "I love you," I whispered, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Caleb's breath hitched, and then he was kissing me, his lips fierce and desperate, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. I kissed him back, pouring every unspoken feeling into it, the world fading until it was just us. But the moment didn't last. A twig snapped outside the cave, and we pulled apart, our eyes wide. Caleb grabbed a rock, his body tensing, ready to fight. I held my breath, waiting for Marcus's shadow to appear. Instead, it was Mara, her face grim but relieved. "You two are hard to track," she said, stepping inside. "The pack's circling back. We need to move." She led us to a hidden trail, where a motorcycle was waiting. "This'll get you to the safe house," she said, tossing Caleb the keys. "Don't stop for anything." As we climbed onto the bike, I looked at Mara, gratitude swelling in my chest. "Thank you," I said, "for everything." She nodded, a rare smile breaking through. "Live free, Eli. Both of you." Caleb gunned the engine, and we sped into the night, the wind tearing at us. I clung to him, my arms around his waist, my heart racing with fear and hope. We'd escaped again, but the pack was still out there, and I knew this wasn't the end. The motorcycle roared through the Vermont night, the road a blur beneath us. I clung to Caleb, my cheek pressed against his back, the vibration of the engine drowning out the chaos in my mind. We'd escaped Marcus again, but the weight of our situation pressed harder with every mile. The safe house was our last hope, a chance to disappear, but I couldn't shake the fear that we were only delaying the inevitable. The safe house was a small cabin tucked in a valley, its windows dark and its walls weathered. Caleb cut the engine, and the silence was deafening. We slipped inside, the air musty but warm. It was sparsely cot. A table. A small stove, but it felt like a sanctuary. For now. Caleb locked the door, then turned to me, his face etched with exhaustion. "We're safe here," he said, but his eyes told a different story. He was as scared as I was, even if he wouldn't admit it. I sank onto the cot, my body aching from the river, the run, the fight. "How long, Caleb?" I asked. "How long can we keep this up?" He knelt in front of me, taking my hands in his. "As long as it takes." I meant what I said. "Eli, you're my home." His words stirred something deep inside me, a mix of love and guilt. I'd spent years hiding my feelings, convinced they'd destroy us. But now, after everything, I couldn't deny them anymore. "I love you," I said again, my voice stronger this time. "I always have." He smiled, a real smile that lit up his bruised face. "I know. And I love you too. Always will." We kissed again, slower this time, the world falling away until it was just us. For those few moments, I let myself believe we could have a life where we were free to love, to be together. But reality crept back in, cold and unrelenting. "We need a plan," I said, pulling back. "The pack won't stop. Marcus won't stop." Caleb nodded, his expression hardening. "Mara's rogues are buying us time. But we can't stay here forever. We need to disappear, new names, new lives." The thought of leaving everything behind hurt more than I expected. New Haven was my home, flawed as it was. But with Caleb, maybe I could build a new one. "Where would we go?" I asked. "West," he said. "California. Maybe. Somewhere the pack's reach doesn't extend. We could start over." It sounded like a dream, but dreams were dangerous. Still, I nodded, clinging to the hope in his voice. We spent the night planning, poring over Mara's map, plotting routes and safe stops. For the first time, I felt like we had a chance. But at dawn, that chance shattered. A low hum broke the silence drones, their lights cutting through the morning mist. The pack had found us, and they'd come prepared. Caleb grabbed a rifle from under the cot, his movements swift and sure. "Get to the back window," he said. "There's a trail into the hills." I hesitated, my heart racing. "I'm not leaving you." "You're not," he said, his eyes fierce. "We're getting out together." We slipped out the window, the drone's hum growing louder. The hills were steep, the trail narrow, but we ran, our breaths clouding in the cold air. The pack's shouts echoed behind us, closer with every step. I didn't dare look back. We reached a ridge, the valley sprawling below us. Caleb stopped, scanning the terrain. "There," he said, pointing to a narrow pass. "If we can get through, we'll lose them." But before we could move, a figure stepped out from the trees. Marcus, his face twisted with rage. "End of the line," he said, a knife gleaming in his hand. Caleb pushed me behind him, raising the rifle. "Stay back, Marcus." Marcus laughed, stepping closer. "You think you can protect him? You're nothing without the pack." "I'm more without it," Caleb shot back. "And so is he." Marcus lunged, and the world slowed. Caleb fired, the shot ringing in my ears. But Marcus was fast, dodging and closing the distance. They grappled, the knife flashing, and I screamed, lunging forward with nothing but my fists. I tackled Marcus, my momentum sending us both to the ground. The knife skidded away, and I swung, my knuckles connecting with his jaw. Pain exploded in my hand, but I didn't stop. For Caleb. For us. I'd fight until I had nothing left. Caleb pulled me off, his arms strong around me. Marcus lay groaning, bloodied but alive. Let's go, Caleb said, his voice urgent. The others are coming. We ran, the pass looming ahead. My body screamed, but my heart was steady. Caleb was with me, and that was enough. The pass was narrow, the rocks sharp under our feet, but we didn't slow down. Caleb's hand gripped mine, pulling me through the jagged terrain as the pack's shouts faded behind us. My lungs burned, my body begging to stop, but the thought of losing Caleb kept me moving. We'd come too far to give up now. The trail opened into a valley, the morning sun breaking through the mist. Below, a small town glimmered, its rooftops a promise of safety. Caleb stopped, catching his breath, his eyes scanning the horizon. We're close, he said. Mara's people have a contact there. We can disappear. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. My hand throbbed from hitting Marcus, and my side ached. But Caleb's presence was a balm. He'd fought for me, bled for me, and now we were on the edge of something new. A life where we could be together, free from the pack's chains. But freedom came at a cost. As we descended into the valley, I thought of everything we'd left behind, Lila. The rogues, the city that had shaped us. I thought of my parents, who'd turned their backs when the pack cast me out. I thought of the boy I'd been, the one who believed loyalty would be enough. That boy was gone, replaced by someone stronger, someone who'd learned to fight for what mattered. The town was quiet, its streets lined with small shops and houses. Mara's contact, a kind-eyed woman named Grace, met us at a diner, slipping us fake IDs and bus tickets. Head west, she said, her voice low. There's a community in Oregon, like the Rogues, but bigger. They'll take you in. Caleb thanked her, his hand never leaving mine. As we boarded the bus, I looked at him, his face bruised but beautiful in the morning light. Are we really doing this? I asked. He smiled, squeezing my hand. We are. Together. The bus rumbled out of town, the landscape blurring into fields and forests. I leaned against Caleb, my head on his shoulder, and let myself imagine our future. A small house. Maybe. A garden. A life where we could love openly, without fear. It felt like a dream. But for the first time, I believed it could be real. Months later, we were in Oregon, living in a coastal town where the ocean roared and the air smelled of salt. The community welcomed us, a mix of outcasts who'd built a home outside the pack system. I found work at a bookstore, while Caleb taught kids to surf, his laugh echoing across the beach. We were healing, slowly, the scars of New Haven fading with every sunrise. One evening, as we sat on the cliffs watching the sunset, Caleb turned to me, his eyes soft. You ever think about what we'd be doing if we'd stayed? I shook my head. Doesn't matter. This is where we're supposed to be. He kissed me, slow and sure, and I felt the weight of our past lift, replaced by something stronger: hope, love, a future we'd fought for. The pack hadn't broken us. They'd made us stronger. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I thought of the alley where it all began, the rain and the pain and Caleb's voice cutting through it all. I'd been a disgraced beta, betrayed and cast aside, but he'd saved Minute just from the pack, but from myself. And in return, I'd saved him too. We weren't just survivors. We were free.